We all know the names Jamie Farr, Danny Thomas, just a few notable celebrities from Toledo, but many more have passed through the Glass City. You know Ted Long from the Holy Toledo History Tours, and now you can visit with him and many more forgotten visitors. Good morning, Ted. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So tell me about your book.
Well, it's a compilation of about 24 stories of famous people who came to Toledo but have been forgotten. People don't think about the fact that, Samuel Clemens was here or Frederick Douglass was here. And it just intrigued me to, cover those forgotten visitors and then the different subjects, from military history to rock and roll to authors, great authors and theater people. It was just a interesting way to leverage my history passion and turn it into something like a book.
I'm sure there's a lot to unpack, the history here in our area. Tell me what inspired you to put it all together.
Well, it was interesting. A few years ago, I was reading a New York Times backstory article about Wyatt Earp. And in the story, the author described how Jack Dempsey climbed into the ring at the Dempsey-Willard fight in Toledo in 1919 and looked out in the crowd and saw Wyatt Earp and Bat Masterson taking guns and knives away from some of the tough guys in the crowd. They were working security. And I was just blown away. It was like Wyatt Earp and Bat Masterson in Toledo. And I immediately thought, who else was in this town that we've kind of forgotten about? The story has been lost.
Yeah, tell me a bit more about these certain forgotten visitors.
Well, the book itself, the cover has a few of them, but I love this matrix of all of them. I mean, the faces and the names kind of pop into your mind as soon as you see the photographs. But it kind of runs a wide range from sports to theater, like I said, and then celebrities, and then it gets all the way into past the year 2000 with the story of Neil Young playing a surprise concert at the sports arena.
And I think so many of them have signed hot dog buns, right, at Tony Packo's.
Exactly, and I tell the story in the book of how that started with Burt Reynolds. And yeah, so it was a lot of fun to kind of take some of those, Toledo's tales and turn them into a book. I
would imagine that you learned a lot writing this, putting this together. Tell me a little bit about what all you learned.
Well, there were a couple surprises. I thought I knew a lot about local history. I stumbled onto some really interesting information about Frederick Douglass when he was here in 1864 and how his visit actually had a lot to do with his relationship with Abraham Lincoln towards the end of the Civil War. And I tell that story in the book. And then I'd always known about, the era of the 20s and the newspapers and how they kind of tended to blow things up. And I spent a lot of time at the library digging through old archives. And one thing I was really surprised by is just how bad the newspapers were, how they would take a small story, spin it into a huge thing, put it all over the headlines. That was kind of surprising to me.
So a lot to be surprised about, a lot to learn about as well. Where can folks get the book?
Well, it's available at Gathering Volumes in Perrysburg, as well as at the Fort Meigs gift shop. And then if you want to order it online, you can go to my website, which is www.holytoledohistory.com, and just click on books.
There you go. And you can, there's a couple of options there for you. If you maybe want to buy that as a gift, there's somebody, the history buff in your family or somebody who just wants to learn a little bit more about the Glass City and the history here, they can snatch that up. Ted, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. Take care.
Happy holidays.
You too.